name is Bogus Hangout. We're on StreamYard today. We're trying something new. Doc, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, it's Doc Sheldon of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central.
Terry?
Terry Van Horn. Terry Van Horn, retired, and sometimes I work on SEO Dojo Radio lately.
And your phone's ringing off the hook. So
Someone's taking care of it now.
Must be in demand.
No, it's always spam calls.
And do not hang up the phone.
Yeah. Visa calls at least once a day to tell me that someone's bought something in overseas.
Visa does it.
Yeah, it's a new scam. I think they're using that to try and get you to give them information. But as soon as you say something like, oh, well, let me talk to, let me call you back, they kind of.
Right. The Social Security scam, I called them back first time they called me and left a voicemail. And the person on the phone said, "What's your Social Security number?" I said, "Really?" Oh, thank you.
My favorite response to those guys is always I just breathe heavy for about 15 seconds, then ask them what they're wearing. That gets rid of about half of them right there.
The ones it doesn't get rid of.
Most of them I know by 3 words now, and I don't even respond. I just hang up.
Well, when I hear that, do not hang up the phone, I've already hung up.
Yeah. It's like
I do see, we all get a lot of those damn emails too. I am seeing a few much more imaginative and well put together. Some of these guys that they don't even bother to spoof their from email.
Yeah.
So they've snagged the art from the PayPal logo to tell you that your account is frozen, and then it says it's from multiplex.pi or something. It's
Yeah, I really appreciate the ones who warn me that I'm not doing all the things I can be doing to rank number 1 in Google.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? I get those for SEO pros almost daily.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the insight to.
Well, they're not.
You might know something about SEO.
Yeah, well, the main thing is they're not doing outreach properly either because they're not reviewing the sites.
Yeah.
An awful lot of those are automated. They buy a list of 40,000 names and turn their bot loose on it.
Yeah, it's like the phone calls I get where as soon as I pick it up, I hear a beep, and I know that's the handoff from a dialer machine to a customer service person.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually laugh at them and then hang up. And they often try to call me by somebody's name. It's like, Donald? Said, no, you can keep on guessing, but they don't do well guessing names. No. So Mr. Harry is back in business. He's back on the web publishing stuff, huh?
Yep.
He wrote a blog post this week. It's good to see.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I saw he put something up over on Wellspring. Have to go take a look at it.
It was about long clicks, short clicks, user behavior signals in search.
The what?
User behavior signals in search.
Oh, yeah.
And think about it, it makes complete sense that Google wouldn't touch something like pogo sticking with a 10-foot pole as a.
Yeah, it's just too noisy. It's not reliable signals at all.
I visit a web page, I get a phone call. The web page is usually the last thing I'm thinking of. If I leave the web page, then it has nothing to do with what's on the web page. There's no way Google can tell that. They recognize that. It's just outside of their ability to determine anything from that visit.
I posted something in a group this morning. I kind of half expect to get some flack over it, and I haven't been back to see. But people were talking about how to determine how the algorithms work and figuring out how they work. Stop trying to figure out how the damn algorithms work, because there's not even one guy at Google that can tell you all of that. Just figure out what their goal is. What are they trying to do? What kind of information are they looking for, and provide it. Unless you're a double doctorate in math, you're not going to have much luck in figuring out the algorithm anyway. Think of it from a search standpoint.
There's too much information that you're not aware of, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you know. You don't know all the settings that they may have created for thresholds.
And none of them work in isolation either.
Right.
If you've got 18 different things in the pie at that moment in time, and one of them changes, it probably requires another 5 or 6 to change as well to adapt. So
start counting clicks on certain queries after the 500th click of the day. You don't know which one you are.
Yeah. And I find it kind of amusing. People are trying to get, or thinking that they can get that granular.
Yeah.
When there's no way in hell you can. Plus, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that it's not going to affect. It should not affect how you're trying to do things. You should be trying to provide the sort of information that Google is looking for.
Your best bet is to not worry about Google at all and try to satisfy the people who are visiting your website. Make them happy.
Exactly.
It's
like trying to figure out what's the bearing clearance on the main bearings of your engine in your car. You're just trying to get down to the corner.
Yeah.
Worry about keeping the goddamn thing shiny side up and rubber side down. You don't need to know that shit.
If you can get people to come back tomorrow or tell their friends about your website and your products, it's a victory.
Then you've accomplished something, yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, if you're satisfying those users, then by extension, you're going to find out you're satisfying the search engine too.
The most satisfied I've ever been with a link I've built was a link that I published on a Polish classified website. And it resulted in 2 clients for the business I was working for who provided regular purchases over a period of years, weekly. And they would buy, it was the incorporation business. They would buy new incorporations 5, 6, 7 times a week, every week. That was incredible for one link.
Wow.
So they were shipping goods to South America from Eastern Europe, and they were incorporating every ship.
Yeah.
They're sending 7 or 8 new ships a week.
Yeah. Neither one of you have read Dave's article?
Not yet.
I just scanned it. I don't agree with everything there. In particular, I believe that the data that SEOs tend to look to as ranking factors, yeah, I wouldn't say they're ranking factors. However, I've definitely seen what people are clicking, moving that up the ranks.
Yes.
And in particular at Christmas, because of the number of people that are clicking on transactional websites rather than informational, I've seen Wikipedia go from top 3 to second page at Christmas. And in the off season, it went back to that to more general topics, not so much focused on Christmas and transactional websites. And I've seen that not just in that category, but in a lot of categories. And that's the type of thing that I kind of think might be done at Rank Brain, I hate to say it, as part of that, like reordering stuff based on the season or, for instance, how does news get to be number 1 for a competitive keyword when it broke? I think, the fact that people are looking for news affects what goes into that search.
I think Google can understand the intent that goes with queries, or they can estimate based upon time of day, time of year, whether there's a holiday going on or not. I've worked with e-commerce sites that were very popular during holiday seasons and became less popular, second page, like you were saying, after the holiday ended.
Yeah, like and not only that, I've seen like within a week of Christmas, you start seeing those sites starting to drop as well.
Yeah.
Especially those that were more marginal with less information on them, right?
Yeah. So Google interpreting the intent of a searcher differently.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's click data type stuff. I think it's more like session analysis or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is kind of measuring activity on the search. And when you and David and I have had this discussion. In my opinion, when you start saying it's not possible or they're not doing that, then you're discounting that as well.
Yeah.
And to me, it like, how else would you know? They can't say at September 29th, flip a switch and say, oh, everything is transactional now. I think they do that using what's being clicked on the search. And that's more of a real-time calculation.
Call from Lee Diamond GA.
Never
I think
failed,
you're
right?
muted, Bill.
I'm still figuring out the controls on StreamYard.
Yeah.
I thought I had muted it, and I kept the phone ringing, didn't I?
But a lot of the stuff that SEOs refer to and think is part of a ranking algorithm is sorry.
Oh, the survey that Rand did a couple of weeks ago, where
No.
one of the results was that people believe that Google was ranking pages based on the accuracy of facts contained within them.
Yeah.
And Danny Sullivan admitted on Twitter that that was completely untrue.
Well, that's like, think about the amount of computing to do that should tell you that ain't gonna work.
Nope.
That alone should have, to somebody who really understands how things work, that would have been the first thing they thought. Is there just too many calculations to make there?
Well, Google did come up with an approach that might be more effective without all that computation. They came out with something called knowledge-based trust, where they had a certain set number of facts, like 1 billion, and they scored websites based on how many of those facts those websites got correct or incorrect. And the more you got correct, the more of a trusted source you were considered. So when Google came out with a knowledge vault a couple of years ago, and they said, we're not using that. It's just a project at Google. Knowledge-based trust was aligned with that. So it was something that they didn't use to improve accuracy of.
Which means we looked at that. It didn't really do much for us, so we passed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Since SEO came about, it seems like every year, more people are conflating correlation and causation, rather than less. And it was disappointing to me to see somebody like Rand, who certainly ought to know better, conflating something that is obviously can only be causation. I'm sorry, only could be correlation. It just makes no sense whatsoever that would be what he was claiming. I was disappointing, and he's not the only guy that does that.
What's that?
I don't remember exactly what it was. Now I only got about 3/4 of the way through that article and just closed it. It was so much nonsense. But he was saying that things were causative. Like the example we were talking about a moment ago. There's just no way in the world that Google is going to dedicate that sort of volume of machine cycles to something that is so noisy and so unreliable, and it will slow their reaction time down so much. Everything that they do is always to reduce cycles and reduce the time to handle their index, to search and return a result. And to go to do something that's going to create 10 times more lag in getting that answer and be less reliable.
Well, somebody points out a mistake that Google's making, like how many legs does a horse have? And the featured snippet was saying 6, right?
Well, where it concerns causation and Rand, I've read things that he said that made no sense to me, like titles don't move, aren't a ranking factor and stuff like that. Headings don't do anything. Well, it's hard to tell those things anymore.
Well, I think so many times, so many of the tests that he claims to have performed, they choose to do something and see what the results show, and then they determine that correlation is because of what they did. It just makes no sense. He should know better. Anybody with something between their ears should know better. And it really drives me nuts when somebody who has an audience says things that are, to me, it's irresponsible when you say things that cannot be scientifically supported. But that's just me.
Yeah, some of it is, like a ranking factor. If you talk to Ammon, he'll tell you almost everything's a ranking factor.
Well,
it's whether you distinguish whether something is a ranking factor, i.e., can in itself move the needle enough that it's discernible, or is it a signal that is just part of the determining of a ranking factor, like the data that they take in.
Well, plus the fact that it's gotten so complex now that you can't really look at even if something is admitted by Google, this is a ranking factor. How can you possibly isolate the effects of change in that particular thing now to the extent that you could isolate it 10 years ago? You can't, because so many other things are happening at the same time. And when I can look at your search result for a query from the Toronto area with your search history and my results for the same query down here, for the same reason that I think that looking at rankings is almost a total waste of time. When my client calls me and says I'm in number 7 slot and I look in their number 13 slot, neither one of us is wrong. And neither one of us is right. And Bill could pull it up and he might be on page 6,
I cost myself a client being honest with him. He was upset because somebody was outranking him for everything. And I asked him who the competitor was, and he told me. I did the search, and they were 40, 50 spots down. I asked him, do you visit their page a lot? He said, yeah. That was at the time when you used to be able to turn on and off personalized search by clicking at the top of the results. So I had him turn it off and said, do the search again. He said, yeah, they're not there anymore.
Now they don't do that anymore, do they?
No.
No.
In fact, I always suspected that they were not really turning it off there for the last couple of years, that it was still offered. Hello, Mr. Grincher.
Hello, gentlemen. No, I agree. The biggest thing I tell clients is don't pay attention to them. I went ahead and gave one of them access to the SEM Rush ranking report that sends you an email every time something moves in or out of the top 10.
Yeah.
And they finally, after 2 weeks, told me to shut it off because they were getting flooded with emails because stuff was bouncing around all over the place. And I'm like, and this is only like 10% of the keywords you think you want to rank for. Can you imagine what the other 90% would do? It's like, you just don't worry about rankings, worry about traffic, and worry about conversions, and the rest will take care of itself.
Let's make your customers happy.
I had a discussion on that just about 3 days ago with a new client that I told him, I said, look, what puts money in your pocket? Is it the sales, or is it your position in the SERPs? Concentrate on what makes money for your company. He says, yeah, I agree. I understand. I couldn't agree more, but my boss won't listen to that. I said, well, then you either need a new SEO or a new boss. So they now have a new SEO. Apparently he shared that sentiment with the boss, and they did not have a new boss, but they did make a change.
Yeah.
One less headache for me.
My wife walked in today when I was losing my shit here in the office this morning. And she's like, what's going on now? I said, well, when one of my clients decided they no longer needed to keep their 800 number, shut it off, and kind of didn't tell me about it.
Oh, it's the same client that never tells you about anything?
It's a different client, but yeah, it's the same general principle. So yeah, they're like, well, the phone calls have slowed way down. It's like, well, that would be because you changed the phone number from what's on the website. Well, what do you mean? All we did was turn off our 800 number. So yeah, and what number's on the website? Oh, we should have told you that. Yeah,
Jesus.
and it wouldn't be so bad, but that 800 number is everywhere. So now we're looking at either trying to get that number back or go through and adjust their NAP everywhere because they use the 800 number for everything.
That's going to have some.
They're $60 a month now.
And if they have to go change those naps, that's going to have some downstream effects too. Jeez.
Oh yeah. No. The joys never end.
Yeah, if we were having this much fun someplace else, we'd be paying extra for the privilege.
Pretty much.
The E in SEO stands for e-ticket ride. If anybody here besides Terry is old enough to remember what an e-ticket is.
Yeah, that's now the bottom ticket at Disney. I'm also kind of getting tired of seeing articles about EAT.
Oh. Yeah, it's kind of getting beat into the ground a little bit. Mostly by people that don't even know. They got to Google real quick to remember what it stands for.
Yeah.
So there was a Stanford Guide to Web Credibility that came out like 2002, which is a list of 10 things that they came up with over the course of 3 years and with 4,500 participants. And it's something I've been telling clients about and making sure they follow it and include stuff on the website that shows they're credible. And it's been effective. Clients liked it. It reminds me of the EAT concept. It reminds me of the Google guidelines, except the Google guidelines are so long. They're difficult to tell a client this is what Google says they're trying to get from websites. 168 pages? Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, even getting a client to read a 5-page report summary can sometimes be challenging.
Well, the Stanford guidelines were like one page.
Mm-hmm.
And they've held up pretty well since they came out. They were last updated in 2002.
Well, isn't the Associated Press guidelines for journalists relatively short too?
Don't know. I've never seen that one.
I think the last time I saw a copy of that, it was less than 2 pages.
That makes it easy to remember.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of value in that. You can't remember what EAT stands for, but
Yeah. We could always just rename it inbound and inbound
Oh.
EAT. And, apparently Terry's not listening.
Google's leaked the EAT document again. It's got changes.
The latent semantic EAT. Surely that would stick.
Oh my gosh. So LSE?
I love the last reference I saw to latent semantic keywords. It was use the Watson natural language processing API, and that'll give you latent semantic keywords.
Sure it will.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with latent semantic indexing. I wonder how people get that into their head that those things do that stuff.
It's because everybody's looking for a shortcut.
So the old-fashioned keyword stuffing isn't good enough? I mean, you need synonyms and related semantic words.
I closed the wrong tab. About that.
That's all right. So this keeps me a little bit more active. It's got user interface that isn't quite as responsive as Google Hangouts. But it lets me a little bit more control over what gets seen. Everything's organized.
I feel like I'm on the Brady Bunch.
This is more of a Hollywood Squares. And I do like the chat feature. It lets people who aren't on the show participate.
I don't recognize this number.
I get the same call, Terry.
Don't all speak at once.
So, Doc,
Yeah.
you're judging the UK and the US search awards?
No, just the U.S.
Okay. Did I see you under a UK search awards thread somewhere?
Should not have been. No, I'm on the U.S. Panel, but not the U.K.
So you're gonna go to Vegas next month?
I'm still up in the air, still trying to finagle it. I'm not sure yet. It's a question of timing and availability and everybody, because I don't drive, so I'm not sure. Plus the fact that it's, looking at 4 or 5 days of meals and hotel and all. I'm not sure if I really want to absorb that cost. I'd love to if PubCon is what I would definitely like to get to, just because there's an awful lot of folks I'd like to meet. But it would be more for the networking opportunity than for the search awards. They don't need me there.
As a matter of fact, I remember one day, one session, eating lunch, running to people I hadn't met before, who I knew from online. And we all stayed at a table and talked through the next session.
Mm-hmm.
because it gave us a chance to. And that was a tremendous opportunity. That type
Oh,
of
yeah.
we had like 7 people from 6 different countries.
Yeah, that would be the main attraction for it. It always has been the main attraction for me. It's hard to justify dropping, $2-3 grand for a long weekend.
Yeah.
If I was making the kind of money that Steve does, it'd be different.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've been hoping so lucky.
But then I don't have a couple of tractors to dig out of the mud every week, so.
Oh, it hasn't rained in a while, so we haven't gotten anything stuck.
Knock on wood, buddy.
Yep.
So do you go on any conferences at all, Steve?
What's that?
Do you go to any conferences at all?
Not in a long time. I used to, but generally for fun conferences or trade shows.
Yeah.
The last trade show I did, one of my clients had never done one before, so we did the big home decor show in Atlanta, and I helped him work his booth and just had an absolute ball for a week on his dime. But we had, the most fun I had at that, besides helping him, was looking at how many people were there who were not taking advantage of social media. We were walking around with our phones and just stopping at booths we thought were cool and live streaming right from their booth and having them explain what they sell and, all that fun stuff, and just had a ball.
Cool. So how long ago was that, Steve?
That would have been, probably 3 years now.
Oh.
Maybe 2. But before that, usually when I went to something, it was to speak. I don't generally do industry. I generally like to go where there's customers, especially because those guys pay me to go there.
Yeah.
If I knew there was a plan to meet up with a bunch of people for something like it, in Vegas, I might go just for the social, any of the speaking things. Too many years of that from the old days. I used to do SEMA every single year and CES every single year, and then E3. And after a while, doing 3 or 4 of those a year, you start getting real burned out real fast.
Yep, you do. I did 8 years of NCC, and it gets old after about the second one.
Too damn many people, too crowded, too many lines. That's why I quit going to Comic-Con and stuff like that. It just, I'll sit out here in the middle of my 100 acres and fish. I'll get off my.
I haven't even tried to get tickets for Comic-Con. It just seemed like too much of a mess.
Yeah, it was great when it was about comics. But it's
Not
no longer
anymore.
about comics. Comics, I don't think there's any comic booths left. I think they got, almost 10 years ago, they got pushed to the basement. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I think they got pushed out entirely. So I don't even know why they still call it Comic-Con. When we published the game review magazine before the web, that going to E3 and CES was a lot of fun, a lot of work, because you're always on interviewing people and exhausted, but the free takeaways were always nice at the end of the show because we always drove and took the van and made sure it was empty. Yeah.
Yeah.
We walk around towards the end of the show. How much of this
Lo-
stuff do you guys not want to haul back? They're like, well, we don't want to haul any of it back. It's like, well, I'll take it. And just, and have stuff to give away for the next year. And all the freebies, man. That's where I learned the joys of mixing Jolt Cola with Skittles. That gets your heart going. These days, about the most crowded I want to get is when we go do the flea market tours on the weekend. Do our big arc and hit all the flea markets in the area and see what's up, see what's what.
A couple shows. I would like to get to PubCon, Brighton, and what's the one in Adelaide? Relatively new one that started about 3 years ago, I think, now at Adelaide. That's the three I'd like to hit. Maybe SMX Advanced.
I was really happy to go to that last year. I hadn't been to Seattle before. So that was a nice chance to see that.
I
I
think
told,
the next major trip I make will be go to Mexico to go fishing.
there you go.
We'll have a small conference on a boat somewhere.
We can live stream that puppy.
Boat town.
I want to be further out to sea than that.
Yeah, well, late August, early September, that's the time to come.
That's the plan.
And you probably ought to drive out. That way you can haul all the albacore. Those puppies come in 280, 300 pounds. That's an awful lot of frozen fish to take back on the plane.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife would love that. She already talked to the insurance company, and they said as soon as I cross the border, my insurance is no good.
You can buy Mexican insurance by the day for about $12.
Well, that's what I think.
Full
Years,
coverage,
but
you know. I mean, full coverage, zero deductible for about $12.99.
I will have to work on that.
You know, so if you're down for 4 or 5 days, that's the way to go, because a rider you can get it from a lot of major U.S. insurers, but they're real proud of it. And the thing is, what they're doing, they're just subbing it out to one of these same folks that you can do the drive-through policy and market it up 12 times.
Well, sure. They got to make their money too. It's only fair.
Well, yeah, that's the American way, right?
Yeah.
Charge the Americans American prices.
Geico is the only one that I've found that has a reasonably priced adder. I think it costs about $67 or $69 a year for a rider that will give you not full coverage, but your basic legal minimum.
Right.
And that's not bad. That's about 50% more than I pay for a 6 month policy.
So did any of you watch any of the Brighton SEO presentations? I know there's live streaming some of that stuff.
Nope.
Yeah, you're muted, Doc.
Thanks, Terry. Now, I did get notification on one live streaming thing, and I signed up for it. And then I went to click into it and found out that apparently Mexico was blacklisted from that particular service. So,
Oh no.
and it didn't like proxies either. So I just got disgusted and did something else.
Huh.
Well, awful lot of chatter in here today, eh?
Yep.
Been a long couple weeks.
You can't get a word in edgeways around Terry. You just come on, webmaster, give us some chatter here.
Not much. I've been. Last time I was on the web was last time I was here.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you retirees, you're all the same.
Well, I'm starting to wonder if I don't have Alzheimer's or something.
Sometimers.
So sometimers.
I
Yeah.
lost all motivation to do anything much.
I get that.
Yeah.
That does happen, yeah.
When I first started doing this, I really liked the work and blah, blah, blah. At the end, you're just doing it for money. That's it,
Nope.
unfortunately.
Doing it
And
so you
if I'm
can
gonna
afford
do-
to do the things you want to do, right?
Yeah, now I'm just going to do what I want to do. I haven't found that yet. Looking at a couple things. Looking to sell a few things and then can really move on.
Totally
There was a-
understand.
There was a time way back in the day when I thought the idea of picking up a pickup and camper or something like that and just letting go of the house and traveling the country would have been an attractive option, but never did it. More's the pity.
I get why my dad lives in an RV now.
Yeah. And that ain't uncomfortable living by any means, you know.
Oh no, especially when you spend what he spent on his. Now, he doesn't even have a real house anymore. He sold that to pay for the RV. And as soon as the drama starts happening, he just picks up and leaves.
There you go.
I've seen him do it.
If you
He's like, "Well, I'm out of here. I got nowhere to go." And in come the slide, and off it goes.
if you couldn't find another silver lining, there's one right there, eh? Put him in the
That's
rearview
it.
mirror.
I'm bored. We're out of here. Not a bad way to go, especially now that he's left his. I've got almost his entire machine shop here now. So now when he comes and stays, he schedules visits here for a couple, 3 weeks at a time, and then whatever projects he had rolling around in his head, he can go into the machine shop and build what he wants to build, and he knows it's going to be fully stocked with materials and all the good tools that he gave me, and so that's a pretty cool deal for both of us. He gets to use them whenever he wants, and I didn't have to pay for them.
So he's can't say digital nomad. He's a nomad.
He's just a plain old nomad. They volunteered a bunch of stuff throughout the year, different EAA events like up at Oshkosh, and they got a bunch of stuff that they do, different places they've got on their calendar every year that they make sure they hit those things because all their friends hit them too, and they get there early and they do their volunteer work. And about the time everybody starts getting annoyed with each other, they all drive their separate directions. But I will say, I don't know that I could live in 248 square foot.
I had a buddy of mine that he and his wife and their, I think, 12 or 13-year-old daughter, they lived up in Oregon. They lived out in the country. They're 20 miles out of Ashland. And he got a hair up his butt one day, and he just decided he was going to sell everything. And they bought themselves like about a 12-foot cab-over camper, threw it on a Ford Ranger, and took off. And about the second place he stopped, he happened to stop someplace where there was some guy that would take a great big cypress or cedar tree trunk, like 8 feet tall, and go after it with a chainsaw and turn it into some sort of a sculpture. And he fell in love with the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was less than a year after that when I first met him. He came down. We were living in Wimberley, Texas at the time. He came to Wimberley, and he did some great stuff. And I bought a few pieces from him and did a feature on him too in the magazine. And
nice.
He had this chainsaw that was a tapered bar, so it came down to almost a sharp point, a real small radius, and it was short. And he'd get in there and take a big old cypress log and turn it into a 7-foot tall saguaro cactus. We bought one from him that was a raccoon, 2 raccoons actually, on a tree trunk playing. Another one that was a huge turtle that was about 2 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big saguaro cactus and a Christmas tree. The guy was, he was happy as a pig in the mud. And this camper, I mean, there was 3 of them, and you could only get 2 of them in there at a time. I mean, somebody had to be up front because unless you were actually sleeping, all 3 just didn't fit in there, And they've been doing it at that time, for about a year, and all 3 of them, even the girl, the wife and the girl, were happy with it too. They just loved it because they had already hit like 14, 15 different states. They'd been to the Eastern Seaboard. They'd been up into the Dakotas. They'd been down to Florida. They were happy. And I guess it ain't for everybody. I could do that and enjoy it. I'm sure my wife would not. And I think it would wear off pretty quick, but.
I know when I go to visit my dad, whenever he's out somewhere, my bed is the 2 captain's chairs up front. I turn them so they face each other, lay them back, and stretch out.
There you go.
Good enough. I'm only going to be in it for a couple days. I don't need anything fancy. My big job for him these days is he's got all these ideas rattling around in his brain that have been there for years. And he's like, okay, this is the next project I want to do. Then he hands it off to me, and then I go out and do all the research and show him all the people that are already doing it and probably started doing it shortly after he had the idea 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's all this cool stuff in your head, Dad. You got to get it out of there faster or work on it in reverse order.
Yeah, last in, first out.
Uh-huh.
Be ahead of the curve that way.
Yep. So, we'll see. Every time he shows up, he's always got something new to do. Makes it fun.
Well, guys, we're getting to the top of the hour. So I think that's going to be it for our show today. Thank you all for coming out. And have a good week.
Same to everybody.
Great.
Have a good one.